wondered, why was I created? Is there a reason why God placed me here on this earth? And all of us have something burning on the inside of us that where you want to know, what is my reason for existing? Or what is my reason as to why I'm on this earth? Do anyone know the difference between existing and living? Oftentimes when we say existing is you are just basically meandering through life. Another word to say it is that when you are existing, all you're basically doing is that you're taking up space. You're here in physical form, but you're not really living life to the fullest. And all of us were created to do one unique thing that we were created to do. And the greatest joy that we get out of life is when we find ourselves doing that thing that God purposed for us to do, each of us to do. There's a scripture in Jeremiah chapter 5 where he says that I created you, I knew you before I placed you in your mother's womb. And he says, I ordained for you to be a prophet. That's letting us know that each of us got an assignment. We were ordained for this assignment. I'm going to mention a couple of names. You all let me know whether or not you've heard these names before. Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, Bill Gates, Venus and Serena Williams, Jack Nicholson. What do all of these have in common? One of the first things they have in common is that they all are good at their craft. And many of them are considered to be the best at what they do. But what else is in common with all of these individuals that I named is that they spent their entire lives doing one thing. If each of us spend all of our lives doing one thing, it's no secret that we will become the best at what we are doing. You will become the best. You'll get good at doing what you were created to do. There is no greater joy that you can find when you realize that I am doing and fulfilling the purpose in which I was created. Have you ever observed animals and insects before? Let me tell you a little story. Oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, but every now and then from where we live in kind of a wooded area, there'll be squirrels outside playing, and sometimes there'll be ants around, and sometimes those ants find their way up into the homes, into our home. And one morning, I was doing an experiment. I see these ants, they got a trail going down the wall, around the sink, and they were making their way looking for their food source. Well then, I go and I get some dish detergent, put it on my finger, and I draw a line right in the middle of their path. Now they would walk up to that line, smell the scent, and they would work their way around until they found another path there. That taught me something, is that no matter what got in the way of an ant, they will still find their way to what they're supposed to do. And so as we live our lives today, oftentimes life will throw things at us. And then when we begin to have things thrown at us, it causes us to be derailed, and we give up on our purpose. When you think back to when you were young, there were things that excited you, things that you wanted to do, things that you would say, you know, when I get old, I'm going to do this, I'm going to travel, I want to be this, I want to do all of these things. And we would say all of these things. But then as we begin to meander through life, things begin to happen that starts to derail us. And then we look back 30, 40 years down the road and we wonder, I have never accomplished what I wanted to do in life. And so I don't want us existing. And so that was really the premise of this book, is to get us and to teach us, to motivate us to move beyond existing and start living. Living and doing the exact thing in which you were created to do. Allow me to read you an excerpt from the book. There are times in life, as I said, that you're going to have interruptions in life. You're going to have those interruptions. Let me read this a little bit for you. It says, when I was a young boy, around the age of 7 or 8, I remember one evening my paternal grandmother needing a ride to the drugstore in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to get a prescription filled. My mom, along with my sister, 2 brothers, and myself, went to pick up my grandmother. After we arrived at the Super X drugstore, my mother and grandmother took care of what they needed to do, and left and returned to the car. My mother was driving, my grandmother was sitting in the front seat, and all four of the children were sitting in the back seat, with my sister occupying the seat closest to the door behind the passenger. My mom began to pull out of the parking space and onto a 3-lane boulevard. My mother and grandmother were engaged in conversation, and we were quietly sitting in the back seat. After about a minute or so, my mom began to ask us, did someone have their window down? She was hearing a lot of outside noise. We all replied, no, ma'am. Well, she turns around, looks over her right shoulder, and sees the back door of the car where my sister was sitting wide open. We happened to be approaching a stoplight, which allowed my sister that time to close the door. Before my mother pulled off again, she asked my sister and the rest of us, why did you not tell me that the back door was open? And our reply was, well, Mother, you told us never to interrupt you when you were speaking to anyone. Now, there are times in our lives that an interruption is good. Interruptions are not always bad. And that was an example. Just like those ants, they caught an interruption with me putting dish detergent in their path. But it did not stop them from reaching their destination. And so all of us have been given a destination that we need to reach and we need to get to. So don't let things take you off course from where God has created you and ordained for you to be. Are you all following this? Yes. Amen. So that, again, as I said, was kind of the premise of the book, which served as a great motivation in writing this book. There's a story I tell often as well about a goldfish. Years ago, some scientists did a study of some goldfish. They put 3 or 4 goldfish in a fish tank, and they allowed them to swim freely throughout the fish tank. After about a couple of weeks, they take a clear, transparent piece of glass and put it in the middle of the fish tank. The goldfish would swim from one side, get halfway, and hit the glass. And then they would turn around, hit the glass, come back and hit the glass. After 2 weeks, they removed the glass. Guess what happened? Those goldfish never went past halfway. That was life conditioning them of what their limits were. And all of us, to some degree, have been conditioned by the world, by things around us, by trouble, by situations, whatever it is, that have caused us to be conditioned that we only can go so far. But we got to understand, the glass has been removed. And you can go to the other side. You can get to the other side of where your destiny is. I want to read another excerpt in this book. And when you look at trying to reach your destiny, you have to understand that you got to want it bad enough. It cannot be something that you think about on an occasion. It has to be something that you think about often. You wake up with it on your mind. Jesus says, I do nothing except what I see my Father do. And then he also says that I must be busy about my Father's business.